Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers Podcast. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports. We have Phil Stacey, Matt Williams of the Salem News, Nick Giannino, Gloucester Times, and they all work for one big happy corporation. But here we are to talk sports. And gentlemen, I want to talk about the Bruins and Celtics. Playoffs underway. Both big opening wins. We'll get to that in a moment or two. But I also want to touch on some local stories. And Matt, let me just begin with you because you've been talking to us about the Peabody Fenwick softball game. I think maybe now for a couple of weeks, or the two programs, and they played on Friday. And you have a story in Monday's Salem News about that game. 1-0 Fenwick picks up the win. Interesting. They just get to 2-2 according to your story, while Peabody drops their first game. But share a note or two on that game for us, if you could.
Oh, just a great game, interesting game. Again, the two pitchers, the senior, for Fenwick, Gigi Opont, she struck out 512 batters in her career with Fenwick, and of course, the great Abby Betancourt at Peabody is at 585 at this stage. So I've not been on the softball beat for super long time, but I got to imagine that like a matchup of two pitchers that both have 500 career strikeouts is pretty rare in the regular season. I could look back at maybe our all-decade team from the 2010s and maybe find one or two possibilities, but I think you can pencil those two in for the all-decade team of the 2020s. And so to see the game come down to one unearned run in the bottom of the last inning when you have two pitchers like that, I don't think was all that much of a surprise. Fenwick has a win over St. Mary's, now a win over Peabody. They lost to Bishop Fee in 1-0. So kind of on the other side of that coin, a pitcher's duel. And then their other loss was, I believe, Archbishop Williams, who Peabody plays today. As you're listening to this Monday, it was a 6-5 game. Fenwick felt like they should have won, booted a few balls, gave up a few unearned runs. So, that happens. If you're Peabody, I think, hey, there's no pressure to go 24-0 now, right? So you regroup and you lost to a good team. I mean, these are both teams that were in the Final Four a year ago. Division III for Fenwick, Division I for Peabody. I think if it wasn't for the ban, Fenwick would be a state championship contender for sure. So I don't think there's any shame. I mean, I know a lot of people were like maybe a little surprised that Fenwick won, but I don't think there's any shame in this, for Peabody. I mean, it's really hard to go undefeated. You can't win them all.
Good. Phil, we're going to jump around here a bit, but girls lacrosse, you were at a game this past weekend, but maybe we can combine girls and boys lacrosse, a couple of notes or two from you, on the lacrosse beat.
Yeah, that was a really good game, actually. Very low scoring as far as girls lacrosse goes. Those usually tend to be higher octane contests with double-digit scoring for the winners and all, but this was great defense, great goaltending for both sides. Caitlin Snow for Peabody really stepped up and played well with some big stops. Madeline Reynolds was every bit her equal, if not more so, in the Beverly net. Played very, very well. I mean, to be honest, I thought it was Beverly's game. Got out to a lead. They kind of kept that throughout. Was tied twice, I think, but Beverly took the lead both times, 6-4 going into the fourth. But Peabody's resiliency, they just kind of hung tough. They locked it down defensively. They scored 2 in the fourth, and they got the overtime goal off a turnover. So they made the most of their chances, and that's what the program's all-time leading scorer, Brooke Lemazny, held off the goal ledger. She had a couple of assists, but it was Maddie Betancourt who stepped up with 4 goals, got it done offensively for Peabody. It was a really good game. I think the rematch will be excellent as well. It'll be coming up a couple weeks in Peabody, and those two teams do seem to have kind of separated themselves from the pack as far as the top tier clubs in the Northeastern Conference. So be interesting to see what happens between now and the rematch, if both teams can keep winning, keep improving, and could be the title gets decided the last game of the season type deal.
Nice to see some defense. I mean, you got to shout out the likes of your Connie Patarulis, your Maya Davis, your Jocelyn Silva, your Morgan Linsky. It's nice to see some defense in this game that so often is wide open. Like you win the draw, you run down and score, and then do
Yeah.
it again. I thought it was really nice. Phil, was the weather a factor in that defense? Do you think? I mean, did that kind of slow things down, or was it really some of those girls just really getting in there and actually being physical and defending?
I think it was more the latter, Willie. I mean, there was a lot of, what I would term in other sports to be help defense. Some great slides from both teams, stepping up, taking a man, preventing, a clear run to the net, as you said, where so many of the better scorers and or athletic girls lacrosse players can do. They can just kind of weave their way through the defense, get a clear shot on net and score. That wasn't the case on Saturday. Yeah, it was raining, but it wasn't like a deluge or anything like that. It was, it was a spring rain. But it was more that help defense, picking up open men, not letting them get to open spaces where they could shoot on either goaltender with clear shots. In fact, most of the best scoring chances came from plays that started behind the net, where
Yep,
it was
I
either
noticed that. Yeah.
somebody wraps around and tries to score from one of the 45-degree angles, or they make a move, a defender slides over and they throw it to somebody out front for a potential, like almost like a one-timer type goal. So
I watched a little bit of the game, and I just was really impressed with both teams. And again, I was really impressed with the defense and especially the physicality. I know in this game, sometimes when there's a little bit of extra defense and physicalness, you can see some shenanigans break out that they don't like the physicality. But I thought both these teams really embraced it and played it disciplined and also within the rules. And I thought it just led to a really good product. It was one of the I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was one of the more entertaining games that I've seen in terms of girls lacrosse, just because of that defense. I think it makes the product better. Personally, I like a 7-6, 6-4, 6-5 more than a 18-20 type of thing. That's just me.
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, better defense means the goals matter that much more
Yeah, yeah,
in a sport like this. So you felt like when PBD scored to make it 6-5 in the fourth quarter, it's like, okay, well, the way we've been going now, if Beverly scores again, that may literally wrap this game up for them. A 2-goal lead with like 6 minutes to go might be difficult to overcome where both defenses are playing so well. Conversely, when PB scores to tie it at 6-6, it's like, okay, well, now the next goal is probably going to win this game. Again, the way things were going, and as it turned out, it was. So, yeah, I agree with you completely there. Hoping to see the same thing later this week when we get two pretty good Cape Ann League teams going up against each other in Hamilton Wenham and Manchester Essex. I'll be over there this Wednesday. And
I want to say, is Nick with us?
I'm here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to say that Ipswich Manchester game that you saw was pretty similar too, right? That was pretty low scoring and had some good defense in it.
6-4, I think that one was. And Ipswich got out to I think it was 5-1 at one point, and then Manchester scored a couple in a row. But yeah, defense was great in that one. And you're gonna see a lot of that with the good girls lacrosse teams. I mean, they're going to pile up the goals against teams that they should beat and teams that they're more talented of. I mean, I'm just looking at the statistics heading into the weekend before this, matchup that Phil was talking about. And Beverly has 2 girls, Lily Shea and Jocelyn Silva, in the top 3 for goals scored at that point. And obviously Peabody with Brooke Lamazney coming back and setting the all-time record there for career points at Peabody. She's in the top 5. So both those teams have a lot of firepower, but when they're matched up against each other, it kind of evens out and the defense steps up. And like Phil mentioned, both goalies are playing really well with Caitlin Snow and Peabody and Reynolds in Beverly. So yeah, I tend to agree. I like the lower scoring, more competitive games like that where every goal kind of means a little bit more. You get out to a 2-goal lead, it feels like a lot more than that. So yeah, hope to see some more of that, but I think I agree. I think Beverly and Peabody are definitely separating themselves at the top of the Northeastern Conference right now.
well, Nick, you mentioned the scoring leaders, and that's another reminder of how well PBD played defensively the other day. They shut down Lauren Cayley, who missed the first 4 games of the season for Beverly, but she's got over 200 career points, along with Shea and Silva. I mean, I think in a week or two, she'll be up among those scoring leaders as well. So to hold her off the score sheet in the same way that Beverly held Brooke Lamazny off the score sheet says something. And you know, if you had told me that there would be the score of that game would be the same as a NHL playoff game last night. I don't know for any of you diehards last night that watched Winnipeg and Colorado. 7-6 is not normal in an NHL playoff hockey game, nor is it in girls lacrosse. So that was kind of an interesting bisection there.
Phil, I'm going to jump to boys lacrosse, something a sport that you're pretty familiar with, I believe. You've been Xing out or tweeting out, I guess. I don't know how you say it nowadays, but some notes on lacrosse today. We talk on Monday here. Prep 5-0, Swampscott 6-1, and in your other top teams in your coverage area, you got Ipswich and Fenwick at 5-1, Marblehead and Essex Tech at 4-2. It's interesting. Beverly, Phil, defeated Swampscott, right? They handed Swampscott their only loss of the season.
That's right.
So maybe put some of this boys in context for us. We know the Prep's out there all by themselves in a way on the North Shore at 5-0, but tell me more about this Northeastern Conference and maybe in the context of Beverly boys lacrosse.
Yeah, I mean, the league is wide open for the first time in a long, long time, I would say. I mean, you know, the last 5 or 6 years, Marblehead came in as the favorite. They didn't do anything really to dispute that notion. You know, there were a few challenges. You know, I know Masconomet has played them fairly well the last few years and all, but it was really Marblehead's. And before that, of course, you had Beverly's reign of terror, which seemed to last from, I don't know, the Carter administration on, essentially. But in reality, this year it's anyone's to win. You know, you have Beverly, as you mentioned, they started 0-5. A little bit deceiving because 3 of those losses, and I'm certainly not comparing one to the other, so please don't say that you don't think that I am. But we talked a lot about this during the hockey season with Marblehead losing their first 6 games, and 5 were by 1 goal, and they go on to win the state championship. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Beverly. They're a Division I team, so they're just not going to win the state title. I mean, they're not. But having said that, they're playing a lot better. They've won 3 in a row. They got Matt Malablocki back, who's probably their top scorer, who missed the first 4 games of the year. And he's picked up the pace. They've got a lot of other good scores offensively. His brother John is a very good offensive player. A lot of nice complementary pieces around those guys. Pretty good defense with Colby Vaccaro in net and a strong front in front of him. Brad Griffin, Brendan McCarron, kids like that, strong players. So yeah, they could absolutely come out of this on top at the end of things. You can't discount Marblehead since losing to Swampscott and having that 62-game conference winning streak snap. They've now won 3 in a row, so they're playing a lot better. Masconomet, a team I feel like has a lot more to give than they've shown. They're 3-3 overall, but the talent is there. They just need to find a way to put it together. I've only seen them the one time last week against Marblehead. They admittedly did not play very well at all. I don't know if it's like the Marblehead mystique or what it is, but they just did not play well. But, you know, you have more than half a season here to change things up or get yourself right or whatever you need to do. I expect Marblehead would be in the mix. Can't not talk about Swampscott. I mean, they're 6-1. They haven't played a ton of what I would say are the upper teams yet, although they did beat Marblehead, so that has to count for something. And they're a team that doesn't have many upperclassmen whatsoever. They rely a lot on junior class, sophomore class, even the freshman class. Kid like John Von Bardo, who's a freshman, is playing very, very well. Timmy Sheehan and Ned's a junior. He's also playing well. You know, Danvers is 2-4, but again, a lot of new faces. I like the talent they have. They were right with Marblehead for 3 quarters when I saw them a week and a half ago. So I think with some improvement there, they could make some noise. You know, it's wide open. Like I said, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say it's going to come down in that upper division between Marblehead, Beverly, and Masco, with Swampscott kind of being the clear favorite in the small. But, you know, Swampscott keeps playing the way they have been early on. There's no reason why they couldn't have the best overall record in the NEC.
What division are they for the postseason, Phil, anyway?
Swampscott?
Yeah.
3.
Okay, so they could, that could be a sweet spot for them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's unfortunate that Beverly and Peabody are both Division I teams. We didn't talk about Peabody, but they're struggling a little bit, 2-5. But again, geez, they have talent. I mean, Johnny Lucas could arguably be the best player in the conference. Aiden Height is a very good goaltender. They've got some scoring between Matt Betancourt, Jaden Kristakios, Brandon Baroni. A lot of guys can get to that. They just haven't been able to catch a break, so to speak, so far. So they need to stop putting some things together. But yes, to answer your question, Swampscott's Division 3, Danvers Division 3, Marblehead Division 2, Masco Division 2. So yeah,
Some hope, which is nice.
yeah.
All right, I do want to save a little time at the end for a little Bruins and Celtics updates. Nick, feel free to weigh in on anything on the high schools, but Matt, I want to jump to you just quickly, a note or two on baseball. We haven't touched on baseball yet here in this week's podcast, and to be quite honest with you, there's still a lot of games still to be played in baseball on the high school ranks. But
There is.
what can you share with us, Matt?
Everything washed out this weekend except for 2 games. I want to give a quick shout out to Swamps. The Big Blue have won 4 games. They're 4-3, and they won 4 games last year. So to equal your last year's win total before April 22nd, that means you're off to a pretty good start. That's pretty good. Swampscott this Saturday will be honoring Frank DeFelice, their Hall of Fame head coach for many decades. Previous. They will be renaming the diamond DeFelice Diamond, so they're going to have an unveiling of the sign and a nice little program there Saturday morning. So shout out to Frank DeFelice. Anybody that put up with El Presidente on his team and won a state title gets the salute from us. That's pretty good, but. Obviously,
Can I just interject for a second about Frank here? Frank,
please.
When I was a young reporter many years ago, Frank was a guy that, if you didn't know him and you first saw him, he's wearing the satin big blue jacket. He wore the baseball pants when not a lot of guys did. I was seeing the likes of like Ron Bennett, who looked like Connie Mack, out there.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about, Bill, right? I mean,
Yeah, I remember.
But Frank, wore the uniform. He came off as very gruff, and it was like, oh boy, what's the deal with this guy? I'm talking more than 30 years ago now. And boy, he couldn't have been better to deal with. He was no nonsense, but he was always very welcoming. After games, he loved to talk shop. Even as a young guy, he would see me and he would say, "Hey, coach," like that was his thing. "Hey, coach, how you doing?" Back in the day, God, I talk about how times have changed. I used to watch games over at Phillips Park on the end of the Swampscott bench. He would be like, "Yeah, come on over, sit over here if you want." I'm like, "Okay." So I did, like, not really thinking that that's probably not great protocol to do, but I did.
Sometimes when it's raining, you got to get under that roof. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, back in the day at Phillips, obviously, no roof or anything like that. I would sit on the end of the bench, keep score. I would talk to the kid, keeping score. And he would say, "Was that a hit? Was that an error?" Things like that. But Frank was always good. And, what I liked about Frank, and this is a thing I never forgot, is that they could lose a game 2-1 on a terrible, so it was a balk or something crazy. And you could tell he was furious. And when I would go up to him after the game, I would say, "Oh, geez, tough one." And he would turn it around and say, "How's your family feel? What's going on?" Like, and just like, I think that helped like almost diffuse the situation for him, like getting his mind off of what had just happened. And it calmed him down a little bit. And then we would talk baseball. So like, and it wouldn't happen often because Swampscott was very, very successful, in the early 90s and far after that. But he would just, in the few instances they would lose, he would kind of temper things down a little bit. And I thought, wow, that's a great stress reducer, let's say, in how to handle things. So Frank was savvy like a fox that way. And hey, Frank is still involved with the Endicott baseball program, Willie?
A little bit, yeah, on the outskirts, yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of an emeritus, jack of all trades, encyclopedia. I mean, yeah, just I mean, he looks like our Lee Emery, right? But
that's a great comparison. Yes.
he's got a
Yes.
personality that quite different, right? You expect him to be a drill sergeant and be kind of mean, and I know he could be like that in practice, but
Yes.
after the game was over, was just yeah, as nice a guy could, more like Johnny Pesky after the game, I guess is how I
Well,
would
I
describe
think
Yeah.
it was probably much different if you played football. When Frank was an assistant for Stan Bondalevich, I think Frank probably was that drill sergeant type, a young
Yeah.
go-getting guy. Like there's a one way to do things, you do it the right way kind of deal, and that's that. But he mellowed over time, like most of us do. And like I said, he won an awful lot of games over there. He and when Paul Halloran was his assistant, there was a whole lot of baseball knowledge on that one bench, and the young men that got to play for him and Swampscott were very, very fortunate.
I can share one story. So I used to do a sports show 6 to 7 on WESX every day, right, in the evening. So during baseball season, it would be great if a baseball game wrapped up during that hour. Maybe we could get a coach on the phone. And this was before cell phones, to be quite honest with you. It was a little after telegraph. So, but anyway, I would not get Phil. I'm looking at you, Phil. I would get Frank on the phone and I just ask him about the game, and I could put the phone down and come back 10 minutes later and he'd still be going.
Yeah.
He was terrific. He was just a fantastic guy, and sharing notes, and he would go on and on. But like you said, Phil and Matt, in person, he was terrific, and one of those people that a good coach, but probably even a better person, kind of a deal for sure. All of that. So
Absolutely,
you're right. So that's Saturday, and we have a little note on our website. We'll put that little graphic that they've on the ceremony on our website as well on this Saturday for the DeFelice diamond, if you will. All right. I'd say on that note, let's should we jump? Nick, do you want to add anything at all here on the baseball front?
Well, no, but we did have our give a shout out to some softball. We had our weekly softball column run in today's papers, and I highlighted some pitching. Some really good pitching going on across the North Shore here. I know we touched on Fenwick and Peabody earlier, and obviously some great pitching from both those clubs. But was able to highlight 3 girls here, starting with Marblehead's Tessa Francis. She's been off to a terrific start for them. Started all 5 games for them. They're 4-1 on the season. She's got like a 1.2 ERA right now with at least 11 or 12 strikeouts every game. So she's been rolling. I believe she is only a sophomore, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sophomore. Man, I just wrote about her yesterday. But she's only given up 10 hits, 1.27 ERA, 57 strikeouts. She's been rolling. So Marblehead's looking pretty good. They're 4-1. Their only loss was to Whittier, and that was a 1-0 decision. And she pitched great in that one too. She had 12 strikeouts. They just couldn't get it done at the plate for whatever reason in that one. But great start for her. And then over in Gloucester, my area here, we had Cameron Carroll return to action. She's been out sick early on in the year, but she's kind of their number 1 pitcher and a big bat in the middle of the lineup there. And she was terrific in her season opening start there, returning. They beat Saugus, and she tossed a no-hitter. I should mention Tessa Francis had a no-hitter too on the book there, but Cameron Carroll came back and tossed a no-hitter, struck out 10 batters. So pitching is huge in softball, as we know. If you can have a dominant pitcher that can go out there every couple of days, like I mentioned with Francis, she started all 5 because their games have been spread out enough where she gets enough rest in between games and can go right back out there. So if you got that ace, it's a huge boost. And another girl that tossed a no-hitter on the North Shore there was Danvers' Autumn Buckley. She did it last week as well against Salem. 5-inning, 15-0 win in that one, but she was able to get the no-hitter with 7 Ks. So nice to see some no-nos early on the softball circle. We talked about, I think, last week having good pitching makes for some quick games, which we all like. So keep it going, pitchers. This is fun to watch.
Matt, how long did that 1-0 Fenwick Peabody game take to play?
It took a while, actually. It was just a little bit over 2 hours. There's a lot of base runners.
Right. Yeah.
Some walks and some tense innings. Both teams left the bases loaded, so it wasn't like super clean game. Two good lineups, but it was so it was close to 2 hours, and it was a little windy, a little chilly out there.
Yeah.
Wind was definitely blowing in, so there were a couple of balls hit to the outfield that might have gone out if the wind was blowing out. So maybe a little different there, but no, it was actually longer than I would have suspected, which was a little. Some of the Fenwick administration I was with was like, you got to stop saying these games are going to be quick. You're cursing us.
All right. Exactly. We don't I need to drop names on that though. Right. Okay.
No, but they shall
no,
remain nameless.
absolutely. All right, Phil, we're talking here on Monday. The Bruins are
Yes.
back at it tonight against Toronto. 5-1 win Saturday night.
Yeah.
There's still room for improvement from the Bruins or what? What do you
Right.
think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of people like, yay, win. And it's like, yeah, it's great to win. But personally, I saw a lot that could be improved upon. And I think if they don't, Saturday means squat. Um, you don't play well tonight, Monday. You're going back to Toronto 1-1. Assuming he doesn't play tonight, Toronto probably gets Willie Nylander back in the lineup, got a home crowd behind him. You don't want to be put in that situation. So I think they need to play even better tonight. I would guess that Jeremy Swayman will be back in net, and then they probably go to Lena Solmark for game 3. That would be my thought. Who knows? But Swayman has played so well against Toronto this year. Really hard to take him out after the way he played. He played very well Saturday, 35 saves. I just think they got away with some things Saturday that winning teams are not going to do them. And because the Maple Leafs tend to trip over their own sticks, so to speak, they were able to get away with them. I mean, that play where Swayman came out of his net to try to play a puck, misjudged it. Matthews comes in wide open net that Nick could have hit and, brings it off
Whoa.
the crossbar. Well, I'm just saying, like I mean, it was a wide open net. And, for whatever reason, Matthews knocks it off the post in the crossbar. The Bruins go down and score the other way. They just got away with some things, I think, that for long-term success, they can't afford to do. So I think they need to tighten things up. They need to cash in a little bit more when they have chances. I like the power play, 2 power play goals. That's great. Keep that up. Keep the penalty killing off, but just tighten up in some other areas. Get a win tonight. Go up there 2-0, and then you'll be feeling better about things. Lose tonight, mistakes, sloppiness. You let Matthews or Tavares get going, Marner. That's a recipe for disaster against an offensive team that's as talented as they are. You got to keep attacking.
Nick, Celtics, obviously they crushed Miami Sunday afternoon. They do not play until Wednesday when they're back hosting Miami again for game 2. I guess we saw from the Celtics what we hoped to see from the Celtics against Miami on Sunday.
Yeah, I was in the Garden yesterday afternoon. It was loud to start, and then they were kind of coasting the rest of the game, and it was a pretty mellow playoff crowd, all things considered. But they took care of business. They're a far superior team than Miami, especially without Jimmy Butler, without Terry Rozier. Got off to a 14-0 start, kind of carried that play. Miami did make a little run, and the only complaint I would have is Missoula had to bring the starters back in the fourth quarter to kind of close the door, and he couldn't, give them that extra rest. I know they don't play till Wednesday now, and nobody got hurt, so it's not the end of the world, and they got the job done. But it would be nice to see them, cruise to the finish line a little bit in those fourth quarters with a big lead like that and be able to throw some of the subs in there. I don't think, and I was talking to a couple other reporters there when we were watching, if they put the starters in 7-minute mark in that fourth quarter, if they took the starters out and put the subs in, they were still going to win. I don't think it was going to make a difference. So Missoula might be a little, I don't want to play with fire here. We lost to this team last year. Let's keep the starters in, stomp on their throat. And I get that, and they got the job done. But yeah, they're just a better team. And Jimmy Butler's not anywhere close to returning. He's going to be done for this series. So they should roll. I mean, there's no excuses. They just got to keep their foot on the gas. And I was listening to Inside the NBA crew, on TNT with Charles Barkley and Shaq, and Charles Barkley came out and said if the Celtics don't win the championship, it's a complete choke job on their part. And then Shaq came over and said he doesn't think they're going to win the championship because they take too many threes, and when they're missing, things go bad and they turn it over too much. And these different things that we've seen happen with the Celtics over the past few years. So I land somewhere in the middle. I think that there's no question they're the most talented and well-balanced team in the league. And when they play up to their full potential and they're moving the ball and getting different guys involved and playing unselfish, they're almost impossible to beat. But then, yeah, are some of these areas of struggle going to resurface themselves in the playoffs? Remains to be seen. I don't think they're going to be challenged too much in this first round again against the Heat. But the Heat are physical, and every guy they play is going to go out and give it his all. And I think that's a locker room and a head coach and a coaching staff and just an organization that believes they can win. So they're not going to lay down, and the Celtics are going to have to match that physicality, continue to play up to their level, and we'll see what happens. But definitely a good start for Boston, and just watching some of the other Eastern Conference matchups, outside of maybe Damian Lillard going nuts for Milwaukee, that's a little scary. They didn't have Giannis, and he showed up. But I just think they're better than any team in the East, and hopefully that's how we see it play out. Hopefully everyone stays healthy, and they can get the job done.
I agree with you, Nick. I'm in the middle. I think if they don't win the East, then the season is an absolute failure.
Yeah.
The championship, we'll see, right? It depends how the series goes when it gets there, right? Like we'll see. I mean, I still think that losing to Golden State the way they did was a failure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, because Golden State was a dynasty, right? So maybe, sometimes you lose to a better team in a championship. Like, and the Celtics look really good right now. But we'll see, when we get there. But I do think
it's a long road.
East,
it's a long road. I mean, you're going to win 12 games just to get to the finals. So hopefully they make quick work of it. But yeah, like you said, I think the West is going to be their biggest hurdle once they get to that championship round. Denver's obviously the reigning champs for a reason. They're looking really good and going against my Lakers, but yeah,
well, especially not getting out of the East last year too. It's like you got to come back, and you can't lose again, and that's just not. I wouldn't, with the season they had. I would consider that to be a failure myself.
Well, are there going to be enough maintenance days for everybody, though? That's the key. Everybody needs the maintenance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Big days off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maintenance.
So we'll see how many wins will the Bruins and Celtics combine for? Will it be over 20? So 32 would be if they both win the championship, right? And so some
let's see.
combination.
I picked the Bruins to go all the way in our paper, and I picked the Celtics to lose to the Nuggets in the championship. Wow. And again, that's not a super confident pick, but that's how I feel at this juncture. So either way, that would put them over 20 wins.
Nick, in the words of the late, great Dickie Betts, you are a rambling man. That's true.
Hey, so I've been pretty good with my hockey picks. I've been pretty good with my hockey picks in the past few years.
Yeah, you did have the Golden Knights win it last year, didn't you?
I had the Knights. I had the Knights a couple years when they went to the championship, the Stanley Cup, and I had the Avalanche when they won.
Yeah,
I think I might have had the Blues in the Stanley Cup Finals that year too.
Really?
Yeah, I did. So go Bruins, I think it's their year.
He's had some moments. He has.
Second place in the football fantasy picks, the Thanksgiving fantasy picks, but number one in the NHL picks. What a world.
Right.
I mean,
Phil Stacey's paying attention to Nick Giannino. I'm telling you, you got to pay attention to this guy.
Insight.
It's you know what? It's broken clock right twice a week, twice a day. No offense, Nick, but your hockey knowledge could fit under this, sesame seed crumb.
Ooh. No, Nick.
I say that in all. I say that with love, if that's possible. Like Nick owns it. He's not a hockey guy.
I don't take offense to it. No. I think I've come around a little bit though. I got out on the high school hockey scene this past winter, and
right. Well, I'm saying high school and pros are totally different.
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I would watch a high school basketball game 10 days out of 7 rather than an NBA game, but that's just me. I mean, that's
Fair.
just,
You know, Nick, last thing, you mentioned the 3 points, the reliance on the 3-point shot and make for the Celtics, which I get that, but it seems to me this year they've got an inside game that they didn't have last year.
Yes. Well, with Porzingis, I mean,
Yeah,
he
right.
showed it a couple times last night. You know, Bam Adebayo is up for Defensive Player of the Year, one of 3 players in that category, and he shot over the top of Bam with some really tight blanketing defense by Bam a few times, and there's nothing Bam can do. So yeah, that makes a huge difference to be able to go to him in the post, and he's got that little mid-range jumper, that turnaround jumper down, and obviously can score at the rim too. But yeah, I mean, that having Porzingis this year, and then obviously having Drew Holiday to kind of run the show, settle things down from the point guard position has been huge. You can't understate that.
Nick,
And
I
the
don't know how
threes,
much.
Bill, just quickly, the threes, they took 18 threes right away in the first quarter yesterday. I couldn't believe it. I think they were 6 for 18. They finished
Right.
close to 50%, though. They hit 22 threes, which was tied for a franchise record. So if they're making them, it's fine. But if you're going to shoot 50 threes and you're not hitting them.
But your better opponents are going to slow those 3-point shots down a little bit, I think.
Yeah, they got a lot of open looks yesterday. I will say that.
Yeah.
Nick, are the Knicks frauds? Because they reek of fraudulence.
Well, I don't know if fraud is the right word. For them, I think, getting to a conference finals would be a success.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
But they have no shot at beating the Celtics over 7 games.
I don't think so. They're gonna play tough D, and there might be some lower scoring games and grinded out games, but they're not as talented as Boston.
And in fairness, maybe it's because like I see on the social medias this like overflow of like Knicks fans
Oh yeah,
going bananas because they beat the Sixers. So I should pull back on the fraudulence, to be honest with you. But as a team, but are the fans unrealistically thinking that this is a championship caliber team?
yeah. There's no way. I don't see that, and they're missing their second best player, and he's not coming back. So Julius Randle.
Real quick, Patriots make a draft pick, or they traded, or what?
I'm hoping they draft a QB, but
All right, we're out though. The clock's running out on us here.
Moving down, I
apologize.
say.
But yeah, we're done. Okay. Thank you guys. Great job.